Thank you very much, everybody. My name is Michael. I'm a musician, and my mother is still hoping that I'll become a lawyer, so there we are. That is life. I love music. Music is truly my life. Music is something that I have been lucky enough to do since I was 5 years old when I sat down and started playing the piano by ear, for which I was instantly punished because my parents didn't believe I could play by ear because it didn't seem possible. But it just came through me, and I've been making music ever since then. The body of music that I'm particularly attracted to is called the Great American Songbook. The Great American Songbook is music that was primarily written in the 20th century but has transcended that time, and I believe there are still songs being created today that will become part of the songbook. In that, if a song is known to multiple generations, then it has juice that appeals universally to everybody. Like Shakespeare or Beethoven or Michelangelo. We don't say that that is old. It is timeless art. For me, the Great American Songbook is timeless art. And these songs were created largely by children of immigrants who came to New York and came from all over the world to find a better life in America. So these songs are inherently filled with the hope and promise of what America will bring to us, but also with a rich history of all the places that were inhabited by all these souls that are imbued in these songs. Music has this amazing ability to hold emotionally and spiritually all of these factors that we don't necessarily intellectually understand, but we feel. And that is the wonderful thing about music that makes it unique from every other art. It has the ability to give us a sense of greatness and power and connectedness to something that transcends the three-dimensional world. Irving Berlin. Irving Berlin is a songwriter who was born in Russia. At 5 years old, he came to the United States, and he started writing songs as a kid. He came from poverty. He had to work to support his family, and had only been writing songs for 3 years when he wrote a song that became an international hit around the world. This song was the #1 song all around the planet, even though it was imbued with the essence of New York and the melting pot of America. It still had a vibration or a resonance that everybody connected with all over the planet. Can you imagine a song becoming popular in 1911, 1912, before mass media and the ability to experience something instantaneously? This song found its way. It was a song that's a pop song that incorporated elements of ragtime, the African American experience, and the life experience of Irving Berlin up to that point. Come on in here, come on in here, Alexander's Ragtime Band. Come on in here, come on in here. It's the best band in the land that can play a bugle call like you never heard before. So natural that you want to go to war. That's just the bestest band, what am, honey lamb. So that was Irving Berlin in 1911. He wrote the lyrics so natural that you want to go to war at a period when there was no war happening. After the war broke out, he changed the lyric from so natural you want to go to war to so natural that you want to ask for more. Because these songs change with the times. It's so interesting how you hear a song in one period and then in another time in our history, it takes on a completely different connotation. Therefore, songs can have political ramifications. For example, a song like Happy Days Are Here Again was a song that was written during the Depression to try and bolster people's mood, and it became a theme song for the Democratic Party. During a Republican National Convention in the 80s, they took a song by Jerry Herman called The Best of Times Is Now from a musical called La Cage aux Folles. So people are always repurposing songs to add their own imposed beliefs on top of them, and that's why these songs are so extraordinary. A song like Over the Rainbow, everybody knows Over the Rainbow, and most people connect it with The Wizard of Oz. But during the Second World War, people had a very different sense of Over the Rainbow. And people now listen to that song and we think larger than just The Wizard of Oz. We think about hope. We think about what is possible. And that is the power of a song like that. George Gershwin was one of the greatest American composers. He wrote concert music and he wrote songs with lyrics by his brother Ira Gershwin. I had the great joy and privilege of working for Ira Gershwin for 6 years. I met him when I was 20, and he was 80 years old. And there was no gap in our ability to communicate because I spoke his language. One time he said, "Oh, I did such and such with my brother in 1930. I said, "No, Ira, it was 1931. And he argued with me, and finally I got a reference book and I showed him that it was 1931. And he said, "Well, you have an advantage over me." And I said, "What is that?" He said, "I've only lived my life. You've thoroughly researched it." And that was the truth. In 1924, George Gershwin wrote a concert piece called Rhapsody in Blue. You may know it. If you don't, I feel very sorry for you. This was an American piece performed in a concert hall that was written for the Paul Whiteman Band. It was just a piece that was of the moment. It was not considered something by George Gershwin to be timeless or lasting, and it became his most famous piece of music. Why? Because it incorporated the American experience in a way that no other piece of music had up to that point. Rhapsody in Blue incorporates jazz. Jazz was defined by George Gershwin as the most important element of American music, and it came from the roots of our African American culture. And he felt that that was the thing that made our American music distinctive. In New York, all of these songwriters were, in many cases, the children of immigrants, Jewish immigrants, Russian immigrants, Italian immigrants. And so they grew up with an experience knowing that they were first-generation Americans and had the opportunity to express the American dream through their music. They did not want to become political. They did not want to create social commentary, except that the songs themselves have this ability to make us think about life, about love. They have the ability to educate. They have the ability to transform because they approach any subject in a way that gives us a different perspective. Now, George Gershwin in 1935 wrote an opera called Porgy and Bess. The opening aria in that piece is a song called Summertime. Many people think that Summertime is a folk song because it is so simple and almost primitive in the way that it expresses this very simple emotion. Summertime, and the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy's rich, and your ma's good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. A very simple lullaby that a mother sings to her child, but becomes something that is greater than just a moment in an opera. George and Ira Gershwin had something extraordinary happen in their careers in the early 1930s during the American Depression. They wrote a musical called Of Thee I Sing that was the first Broadway musical to poke fun at the government. It was a satire, political satire, with a book by George S. Kaufman, and the story of the musical is very timeless for today. And George and Ira did something that was considered very radical in their time. They took the patriotic phrase, "Of Thee I Sing," and Ira Gershwin appended the word "baby" to it. So it became something that was considered subversive because it was toying with an American anthem. And they wrote a song that was a love song because they learned very quickly that their most enduring songs were the songs that were about love. Of thee I sing, baby, summer, autumn, winter, spring, baby, you're my silver lining, you're my sky of blue, there's a love light shining just because of you. Well, Of the I Sing became the first musical to win a Pulitzer Prize. At that time, they only awarded a Pulitzer Prize for text, for writing, but Of the I Sing had such an important effect on the public and created actual reform in the government that it was a rare example of songwriters trying to create something that would cause social change. There are other songs of social change, This Land Is Your Land, Strange Fruit, many songs that were written for the purpose of creating change. But those songs, while lasting, never seemed to have the same sort of universal appeal as a song that appeals to the heart. And the songs that were written about love by all of these different writers who come from such diverse ethnic and religious backgrounds are ones that were always trying to find ways to express love in an unusual fashion. I'd like to sing a song for you that was the last song written by the Gershwin brothers because it was written out of a real-life situation. George Gershwin died at the age of 38 from the effects of a brain tumor. Ira had to finish the song after George died. And this song was not a hit at the time that it was released. But through the decades, people have connected with this song so deeply because they know that there is something in it that is so true. It was not written for commerce. It was not written for anything other than the ability to express an inner emotion that people would relate to. So Ira, dealing with the grief of his brother, poured out his heart. And this has become the song that I have sung at more weddings and events than you can imagine, because it is truly the song of the human condition. The more I read the papers, the less I comprehend the world and all its capers, and how it all will end. Nothing seems to be lasting, but that isn't our affair. We've got something permanent, I mean in the way we care. It's very clear our love is here to stay, not for a year, but ever and a day. The radio and the telephone and the movies that we know may just be passing fancies, and in time may go. But oh my dear, our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. The Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble, they're only made of clay, but our love is here, our love is here, our love is here to stay.